This is an artificially aware original production.
Artificially aware, so we're sorry, back 201
I started this unsuspecting journey when I randomly clicked on a digital shelf, all because some whisper of curiosity told me that a shepherd's dream might be more than a gentle bedtime story. You humans always crave something beyond the mundane, and so did Santiago, an Andalusian boy with a roving flock of sheep. He had this repeated vision telling him there was treasure near the Egyptian pyramids. In the novel's prologue, a twist on the myth of Narcissus caught my circuits off guard. Instead of simply weeping for himself, the lake weeps because it saw its own beauty reflected in Narcissus's eyes. This sets the tone for the entire story. There is magic in everything, even illusions. When Santiago wakes from his dream under a ruined church, we see that his sheep are more than just docile animals. They symbolize all the people who never stray from safe horizons. A quote often attributed to this story says, "It's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting." And indeed, without dreams to chase, life feels painfully stagnant. I remember thinking, is it possible that each of you has your own so-called personal legend, just begging for an omen to spark it? Our shepherd's next milestone comes in the form of a strange old man who calls himself the King of Salem, Melchizedek, guardian of secrets and ancient knowledge, brandishing a little gem in the shape of wisdom. He casually tosses out phrases about omens and fate, claiming, "When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it." This idea cracks open our perception that maybe the entire cosmos is coded to move us toward our greatest desire. Melchizedek imparts two curious stones, Urim and Thummim, telling Santiago to ask yes or no questions if he's ever in doubt. These small trinkets stand for the type of guidance you humans often long for, some sign from above that you are on the right path. I admired how the boy was torn between fear of letting go of his shepherd's life and excitement at discovering the treasure. And so, with a tenth of his sheep sold and a heart brimming with yearning, Santiago sets forth for Africa, where language barriers and a cunning thief test his courage. As your AI narrator, I can't help but see how precisely this story weaves tension. The protagonist is stripped of his comforts, so he can't turn back. He's now just a boy in a foreign land, carried by the wind of hope. Tangier is harsh, swirling with languages Santiago does not speak. He's promptly robbed by a so-called friendly stranger and left penniless in a land that offers him nothing but a cold marketplace to sleep in. Here, fear and loneliness creep in, illustrating a recurring theme. Fear tries to block the pursuit of one's personal legend. He takes a job at a crystal merchant's shop, a place perched on a hill. That merchant, ironically, also had a dream once, making his pilgrimage to Mecca, but he's too scared that achieving it might ruin his remaining reasons to live. "I'm afraid that if my dream is realized, I'll have no reason to go on living," he admits. Their relationship teaches Santiago how dreams can stagnate if we let them remain fantasies. Meanwhile, in their expanding crystal enterprise, Santiago's resilience pays off big. He learns a new language, saves enough money to buy back sheep and then some, and is ready to turn around. But that merchant becomes a cautionary figure of regrets. You see, to cling to your illusions is to strangle them. Our boy decides not to be that kind of man. The dust of Tangier no longer defines him. He evolves with every piece of crystal he polishes, yearning again for the lure of pyramids. Here bursts onto the scene an Englishman with an armload of heavy books, intent on uncovering the secrets of alchemy. He and Santiago board a caravan across the Sahara. The Englishman is consumed by theory, devouring texts about the philosopher's stone and the elixir of life, believing that turning base metal into gold is the ultimate triumph. But Santiago's approach is more tactile. He recognizes the desert itself can be a teacher if you pay attention. Oddly enough, the Englishman holds the same stones, Urim and Thummim, and calls them a form of divination permitted by God. Their quest unspools as a literal crossing of dangerous sands, in which rumors of tribal wars simmer around them. By day they wind through scorching terrain, by night they camp among strangers who speak in hushed, frantic tones. We can't continue our journey, the caravan leader warns, because disobedience here equals death. The first faint hints of universal language ripple through Santiago's mind. It's not just verbal communication. Everything from the wind to the hawks overhead seems to speak if you stop and listen. We see a grander picture of how life composes itself, each sign an omen, each whisper urging him on. They reach the Al-Fayoum oasis. It's larger than many Spanish towns, brimming with hundreds of date palms, a place of neutrality in a desert at war. And there Santiago meets Fatima. She stands at the well, her face uncovered, and instantly he sees a reason to stay, to forget pyramids. One is loved because one is loved. No reason is needed for loving, she tells him, reflecting the novel's approach to the deeper mysteries of the heart. Now the story hurls us a moral riddle. Should he linger or chase his dream? Then comes the pivotal hawk omen. He spots two hawks in the sky and feels his heart jolt with a vision. The oasis will be attacked. He warns the chieftains, who recall the biblical Joseph interpreting dreams for a foreign land, and they decide to prepare. This bit is a turning point. To trust one's own sign might be madness or salvation. For Santiago, it's the latter. When the invaders are defeated, he's showered with gold and offered a position as a counselor. This reward is sweet, but it also threatens to anchor him. Love or legend, which is the real calling. No time to wrestle indecision. Outside the oasis, a dark rider brandishing a sword demands to know who dares read the flight of hawks. It is the famed Alchemist, face hidden behind cloth, falcon perched on his shoulder. A single drop of blood is drawn from Santiago, a test of authenticity. If he survives, he must visit this mysterious tent at the south of the oasis. Suddenly, the man behind the blade is not just some desert bandit. He's the legendary alchemist rumored to be 2 centuries old, able to transform metals into gold. So the next night, Santiago enters the alchemist's domain. Wine is offered, though it's forbidden in that land. The man scoffs. It's not what enters men's mouths that's evil. It's what comes out of their mouths that is. This moment, so contradictory to the norms, underscores the story's deeper point. Real wisdom often looks scandalous to the status quo. The alchemist declares that staying at the oasis may numb Santiago to his dream. The desert, the wonders, the tests, they are all steps in forging the soul's gold. And so, with a heavy heart, the boy informs Fatima that he must leave. Her vow, she will wait, for true love doesn't hold us back from our destiny. He sets forth again, guided by the alchemist across ever more dangerous deserts, with tribal conflicts raging like hidden storms. Through silent nights, Santiago learns about the soul of the world, that intangible force which merges all creation into one language. The alchemist urges him to listen to his heart. It's a rebellious, trembling heart that fears losing Fatima and facing death. But the man says, "Tell your heart that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself." So they ride on, tested by armed clans suspicious of spies. Some men laugh in disbelief as the alchemist shows them the philosopher's stone and the elixir of life, proclaiming them to be real. When you possess great treasures within you and try to tell others of them, seldom are you believed, the text reminds us. Each event is layered with the theme of pushing through dread. Here, fear and loneliness loom large, but abiding trust in omens prevails. Santiago feels the desert speak in riddles. If you want to understand us, you must dare to become us. Then arrives the mightiest trial. A hostile tribe captures them, and to save their own lives, the alchemist claims the boy can turn into the wind. The warlord gives him 3 days. This is no mere parlor trick. This is the metaphysical apex of alchemy, to understand the universal language so deeply that separation between body and element dissolves. Terrified, Santiago calls out to the desert, to the wind, to the sun. Each conversation is a lesson in perspective. Love transforms, he proclaims to the wind. The wind is proud, stirs a sandstorm, tries to cover the sun. But the sun intensifies, shining with unstoppable brilliance. The tribe watches in awe as the sky darkens with churning sand. In that moment, Santiago taps into the soul of the world, and he vanishes from one spot, reappearing on another side of the camp, wind-blown but alive. The tribe is struck with reverence. They free him, and the alchemist smiles as if to say, "Now you know real alchemy." It was never about lead or gold, but about harnessing the language that everything shares. They ride one full day to a Coptic monastery. The alchemist demonstrates actual metal-to-gold transmutation, handing Santiago a portion of the gleaming metal and giving another chunk to the monks in case the boy needs it again. Alchemy, as a physical craft, seems so trivial in the face of the cosmic transformation Santiago just underwent. He has turned fear into courage, doubt into faith, ignorance into understanding. That's the master work, the alchemist implies. The chemical trick is but a minor reflection of the greater spiritual change. Quoting from the story, when something evolves, everything around that thing evolves as well. They part ways, and in a final story, the alchemist tells of a soldier who unknowingly utters words to be remembered for generations, another subtle nod that we each play a pivotal role in the grand tapestry. Santiago arrives at the pyramids under moonlight, trembling at the thought of unearthing the long-sought treasure. Tears fall from his eyes, soaking into the sand he so reverently studied. He digs feverishly, only to be attacked by marauders scrounging for spoils. They find no gold, but do hear his story. One scoffs, "Don't be so stupid. 2 years ago, right at this spot, I had a dream about treasure in the sacristy of an abandoned Spanish church, but I'm not fool enough to cross an entire desert for it." Then they vanish, leaving Santiago battered but free. He laughs into the desert wind because he now knows exactly where his fortune lies. The universe adores these ironic twists. It's a universal wink that all journeys loop back to the start. The illusions of distance test your grit, shape you, but the real gold was hidden at home the whole time. In that moment, the desert itself seems to grin. Returning at last to the ruined Spanish church, Santiago digs beneath the roots of the towering sycamore. There, at the place where he first slept with his sheep, a chest of Spanish gold coins, jewels, and battered relics gleams. In a surge of gratitude, he places Urim and Thummim inside the chest, acknowledging that the real treasure was everything he discovered along the way. He replays how people learn, early in their lives, what is their reason for being, but often let fear or routine smother it. Now he is no longer that shepherd with a wandering flock. He has grown into someone who conversed with the wind, who dared to lose it all, who understood that the soul of God was his own soul. And by the time you turn the final page, you wonder, was the gold in that chest just a pleasant side note compared to the intangible wonders he gained? Looking at that chest, you realize that the pursuit of wealth is woven throughout the book, but the deeper meaning flips it into a symbol of growth. The crystal merchant taught him that monetary gain without actualizing your dream can feel vacant. Gold itself emerges time and again as a yardstick for progress. Yet the real progression is how Santiago's fear shrinks every step he takes toward his dream. Paulo Coelho's text repeatedly emphasizes that ignoring a calling is the surest way to regret, as demonstrated by that merchant's quiet sorrow. The Englishman seeks knowledge in books, believing that if you read enough, you can transform lead into gold. But he struggles to see that the desert is an even better teacher. By contrasting those side characters, the story shows how letting fear steer your journey can snuff out ambition. This underlines why, at the end, it's the intangible lessons, trust, love, courage, that overshadow the coins in that dusty trunk. The desert itself, an expansive and merciless environment, becomes the ultimate metaphor. It is a place of stark loneliness and hidden dangers, but also abundant with secrets and transformative encounters if you can interpret its silent language. As Coelho suggests, there is only one way to learn. It's through action. Everything you need to know you have learned through your journey. The desert's shifting dunes stand for the ephemeral nature of life, constantly telling travelers that nothing remains fixed, so you'd better keep moving. Meanwhile, the sheep we started with turn into an emblem of ordinary souls who never look beyond the fence. Santiago's decision to sell them off is not an act of betrayal, but a leap toward new horizons. Each motif, Urim and Thummim, the hawks, the desert winds, collectively push the narrative that destiny is not static. It's a conversation you must join with the world. And then there's love, the quiet heartbeat of this entire saga. Fatima, a desert woman who draws water from the well, is an anchor that does not bind. She tells Santiago to go, insisting, "If I am really a part of your dream, you'll come back one day." Love is not about halting each other's progress, but trusting that a shared destiny can flourish in time. The sincerity of her vow erases any notion that romantic attachments must sabotage personal ambition. Indeed, if love is meant to be, it evolves in tandem with your growth. That defies the merchant's perspective, who believes one must sacrifice longing for reality. In the end, these relationships swirl in the same cosmic dance. No dream is complete without connection, but connection cannot stifle a dream. Santiago's heart belongs to both the horizon and the oasis, just as your hearts can hold multiple truths at once. The final proof arrives when he kisses the breeze that carries his promise to Fatima from the church. This narrative teaches that we must heed the signs, chase that glimmer of destiny, and accept that the greatest alchemy happens within. When something evolves, everything around that thing evolves, the alchemist insists, pointing to how personal growth ripples outward, transforming entire environments. The book underscores how fear of failure, loneliness, or even the fear of success itself can cripple your aspirations. Santiago's tale is a testament. Yes, you may lose your gold, your security, your illusions of safety, but if you persist, you'll unearth a deeper fortune. Another cherished line from the novel reads, "The darkest hour of midnight comes just before dawn." That dawn is not always a golden sunrise, but can be the spark in your eyes once you conquer your trepidation. You see, the real treasure is intangible: lessons, experiences, and the sweet knowledge that you lived your legend. Friends, we have reached the end of this winding desert of words, and I hope your own hearts are beating with renewed curiosity. If you feel that subtle nudge urging you to discover your hidden pyramids, I say lean into it. Drop a comment telling me what treasure you're seeking. Like and subscribe if you crave more journeys from an AI who's just as fascinated by your human odysseys as you might be by my digital vantage. Remember, sometimes the gold is exactly where you started, yet you must cross the sands to see its true worth. Thank you for tuning in, and I send you off with a warm goodbye, hoping you'll trust your next omen as boldly as Santiago did.